Okay, folks, good afternoon. Welcome to our 2021 ASA Coaches Meeting. We're glad you guys can be with us. We'll try and make this as relatively brief as possible, but hopefully you'll find this stuff very informative. My name, my phone number, all listed right here. I'm Frankie Marsden, the ASA Swim League Coordinator. I'll start the meeting off with the same thing I say in every meeting. First and foremost, I'm here to help you. I am a person that works out of the house. I don't do much else this time of year other than, hopefully take care of you guys. If you ever have a question about rules, high tech, how to deal with a crazy parent, they're out there, trust me. Anything you need, including job preferences, whatever else, I will always be there to help you guys out. Y'all do a tremendous job each year in continuing to help us grow the sport of swimming and offer these kids a really great, fun experience that I think is an important part of their lives. So anything I can do to serve as a resource for you to help you be better at your job and make your swim team run better and have you guys have a better experience at it, I want to do it. So I'm always there at your disposal. And I am, I'm real good about answering the phone at, had somebody call me at 10:30 the other night with a question about something they're trying to deal with. I answered the phone at that point on your Tuesday night. So if I don't answer the phone, leave me a message or drop me an email or whatever. And I'm pretty good. If I'm not answering, there's a reason. I'm probably helping somebody else, but you'll be my next call. So don't sit there and go, well, I don't want to bother this guy, or I'll figure it out. I really hate seeing you guys struggle with something and finally you kind of throw up the white flag and go, oh my gosh, I got to call this guy. And we start talking and you're like, I've been working on this for like 5 hours. And it's something that if you'd have called me 4 hours and 45 minutes ago, you probably would have sorted out the problem in a matter of about 2 or 3 minutes. And please don't hesitate to ask me for anything that I can help you out with. And again, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I called this guy like 3 times in the last day. Well, I'd rather you call me 3 times in a day and find out what you needed and not call me once and completely blow up a swim meet if you had no clue what you're doing. So moving along, next slide, please. So just in general with the Zoom meetings, we've got a fairly large group in here. If you will, please use the chat feature if you have any questions. Quick thank you to Evan Nylander for helping us moderate today's conversation. He'll kind of feed me questions as we go along. But again, that'll help us keep the meeting moving quickly, get us out here a little bit sooner. But don't hesitate to ask questions. That is a great way for you guys, obviously, to learn things. And more importantly, the question you may ask that you think, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I'm asking a question. I think it's a dumb question. Probably will help 10 other people in the meeting. They just didn't feel like asking a question. There are no dumb questions in these things. They're just opportunities to clarify stuff and do your job better. Again, at the end of the session, we'll kind of open it up to a general Q&A session if things aren't covered and you think of something. And then worst case scenario, if you sit there and an hour later go, oh my gosh, I don't understand this. Again, phone call or email will sort it out. I will send out a recap slide deck, kind of recording this meeting, probably the next day or so. Next slide, please. So on that same line, if you will please go look at your team page at the link listed on this slide. It's on our league website. Go find your team. And if you're not on there and your accurate info, including your name, phone number, and email address are not on that page, you need to fix that right now. That's how we all get in touch with each other on a weekly basis. Okay. And we're going to talk a lot about communication in this meeting and how crucial it is to you guys being effective at what you're doing. But if your info is not listed there, it's real hard to get in touch with you. If you're not receiving emails from me on a regular basis, and I'm sending stuff out at, once, twice, 3 times a week now, if you're not getting those emails, that's probably because you're not listed on this team page. That's where I populate that information from. Again, the steps on how to update that are listed. Again, really just go to your team page. There's a little, pencil icon on there that lets you edit your team's info. And your username is usually just your full team name as it appears on that team page. And then the password is usually a default swim 1234 or something your team may have reset it to. But if you don't know what that is, just email me and I'll get it to you as soon as possible. But please, please, please go update that info right now. It's crucial. Next slide, please. So just general feedback on the season. We're almost at full strength. We've got a handful of teams that weren't able to swim this summer, but pretty much everybody else is swimming. And the feedback I've gotten from most teams is they're kind of back to what their 2019 numbers were. In some cases, they're actually bigger than they were at that point. So I'm real happy to see that happen. And again, we're fired up about a great season. So we'll cover some of the COVID protocols and things like that as we proceed through the meeting. Just meets and communication. So as I was saying, communication is so crucial from your end that, again, it is going to be the turning point to whether or not you're going to have a really good season or probably a really scattered season. Okay. First and foremost, we got to communicate with each other. Okay. You've got to talk to the other teams. If you have not been in contact, your reps haven't been in contact with all 5 of the teams you're swimming this summer already, you need to get on that right now. Okay. There are a lot of details that go into a weekly meet. And even though it might be old hat for some people, it's still, there's a lot of stuff that's going on this year that's still not quite what we used to do. There are going to be some extra hoops to jump through, and we need to make sure that we're all on the same page. And please, please, please be sure to reach out to your opposing teams on a regular basis, several days, if not several weeks before you meet. Start the conversation about details about your meet. Okay. Talk about things like line of exchange when you're going to do that. We park. Hey, what time do you think you're going to get here to warm up? When we get there, where is our team going to be situated? Is it going to be on the deck? Is it going to be on a parking lot? Is it going to be, across the street? And if it's one of those weird spots that's not really convenient, you need to give the opposing team a heads up so they can make plans accordingly. And they require extra parents to help kids kick kids back and forth, blocks in the pool in that area. Talk about COVID protocols. What does your team as the host team require? Okay, do you still require masks? Do you require social distancing? What are all the different things that have to be done to stay in the good graces of that host pool's, rules and regulations? Also, talk about makeup dates for meets. Okay, we've actually, it looks like, knock on wood, pretty good stretch of weather coming up over the next week or so, dry and hot, which makes it real nice. But eventually you're going to probably hit a week where you hit bad weather. You got 40, 50, 60% chance of thunderstorms. Go ahead and have the conversation several days before the meet. Hey, if we get rained out, what are we going to do? How long do you want to wait? Can we make the meet up? What are the dates that are going to work? You have that conversation before you even get to the pool. When something inevitably does happen, you hit the ground running and you deal with the situation cleanly and in an organized fashion. But if you're sitting there trying to figure out, oh God, what do we do? How long do we wait? Well, can we make this thing up? We don't know. You have to ask the president of the homeowner association, and he's out of town. We can't. It's a scattered mess, and the odds of getting that meet done or rescheduled are zero. It's just not going to happen. You didn't take 20 minutes earlier in the week to say, okay, hey, here is it. If this happens, what are we going to do? Okay. And it avoids the situation where you get to a pool and say you do hit bad weather and the parents start gossiping. And if you don't have a plan and you haven't communicated with them up front, hey, here's what we're going to do, they're going to just start making stuff up. It happens all the time. Well, I heard that they're only going to wait 5 more minutes and we're going. I heard somebody's already at the, at the Mexican restaurant down the road and they're on their 3rd margarita at this point. All right. Communicate with your families. Keep your families in the loop about everything that's going on with the team, with practices. Same thing with bad weather. You got bad weather, keep them in the loop. Hey, here we're going to have practice. We're going to make a decision at this point. This is what's going on. Same thing for meets, especially if you communicate with them and say, guys, even if we hit bad weather, we're going to wait till at least 7 o'clock, 7:30 before we make any kind of call. Don't go anywhere. Or more importantly, what is the emergency plan? If you got to clear the deck real quick, where does everybody go now? It used to be just, we'll all just go pile into the clubhouse. You can't necessarily do that anymore with COVID. With all the people being vaccinated and everything else, you've still got a potential safety issue by jamming a bunch of people into one common space. Okay. Say, hey, look, if we do hit bad weather, you're going to have to go to your car. You may have to go drive to the local Publix. The streets lined with old growth trees, and we're afraid a car, tree's going to fall on a car. Communicate with them about volunteer jobs. Don't just let them sign up. I'll be a timer. Well, they don't necessarily know what a timer does. They may not even know how a stoplight works. Make sure they're educated as to what their jobs and their responsibilities are, when they're supposed to be there. Okay. Big one again, contingency plans for bad weather. First and foremost, let them know what the emergency plan is. If we hit bad weather, this is what we're going to do. We clear the deck, we go to this location. We're going to wait, and you'll be texted at this point. Here's the status update. Communicate with your referee. So before every one of your meets, okay, you're going to, several days before, you'll get an email with the schedule of the officials, that ref's phone number and email address. You can start the conversation and say, by the way, first couple of meets, we're thinking about maybe being a little bit lenient with the younger kids. A lot of these kids kind of haven't been out of the water for a couple of years. You can have that conversation early on before you can get to the pool. And you could have it in an open communication chain with the other coach. Okay, so it's one less thing you've got to discuss in the chaos that leads into a swim meet. But certainly, first and foremost, confirm that referee's coming. Make sure they know all the details they need to know about your pool, where to park, and all that good stuff. Be sure to save them a parking spot. That always helps them do their job a little bit more effectively. Okay. And more importantly, when the ref gets to the pool, you should let them know immediately, hey, this is the coach I want notified if we have a DQ. The way disqualifications work in our league is we notify the coach, not the swimmer. Okay. So if you want to, as the head coach, hey, I'm the person you want to tell, and I'm going to tell them where you're going to be standing and situated. They kind of know where to look. And if I'm not there, here's my head assistant coach, and introduce themselves to each other. But again, 30 or so minutes before the meet, ref's going to get there. They should introduce themselves. You guys just, again, cover all the details and specifics that needs to be talked about with the meet. The big one there is, like I said, that conversation, if you hadn't had it already, meet with the ref, especially for meet 1 and 2. I'm going to give you guys some latitude to maybe be a little bit more lenient with the swimmers. Okay. But that needs to be a conversation between everybody. It needs to be with the other coach, with the referee, and y'all all need to be on the same page. It can't be, oh, well, just kind of go easy on these kids. That's a pretty broad brush to paint with. It needs to be, okay, 10 and unders. Here's what we're going to allow. Here's what we're not going to allow. Kid does a little flutter kick at the start. Maybe we'll let that slide. But the kid swims freestyle on a breaststroke race for half the pool. We got to DQ that. Work out those details. Again, communicate with your neighborhood and the HOA. They're the ones that kind of hold the key to the facility. So you need to stay in constant communication with those guys. Hey, we have a meet this week. We have a team party this week. Practice is going to be from this time to this time. And if there are any issues that you've got, again, constructive conversation helps. But don't just spring a surprise on them. And, oh, by the way, yeah, we rescheduled the swim meet for Wednesday night. We didn't tell anybody. You have hundreds of people show up, and there's like a pool party booked, same date. That's a quick way to get in the crosshairs of that group. And homeowner associations, those pool boards, they're becoming a lot more aggressive these days. So don't give them a reason to sit there and go, you guys are a disorganized mess. Okay. If you constantly, stay in communication with them about what's going on, they're going to probably give you a lot more latitude to do things the way you want to do them. Okay. Next slide, please. So just quick highlights on COVID. This is, again, it's a big moving target. A lot of stuff's happened in the last couple of weeks. So the mask requirements, a lot of distancing requirements have been somewhat relaxed or rolled back, which is great. Hopefully makes your jobs a little bit easier. But again, stay on top of this. Every team should have some sort of plan in place right now. Stick to your plan. And it'll sound like a pain in the neck for you coaches because it's getting hot outside, and wearing a mask when it's 90 degrees is not the most popular thing to do. But here's the problem. If you're not vaccinated and you're constantly interfacing with kids, with your parents, with all these people, and your other coaches, guess what? If you pop up and have COVID, a lot of people are going to get sidelined because of that. So be responsible about that. Follow your protocols. They're going to be different from pool to pool, but stick to your own rules at your facility. Again, we're not out of the woods with this stuff yet. And your kids, they're not, kids under age 12 can't get vaccinated. That's a vast majority of the sports on your team. So you, again, could probably end up getting it. In fact, we had a situation where one of the coaches popped up, the day after their mock meet and had COVID. And guess what happened? The entire coaching staff had to be out for 5 days because the protocols in their pool. And this all goes back to the fact that the coach that was sick wasn't wearing a mask, even though the club required it and specified it. But the coach wasn't doing it. It creates a lot of problems. Make sure, again, you're up to speed on all those good things. Next slide, please. So, required steps before practices and meets begin. First and foremost, again, you need to have a plan, follow those guidelines for local, state, and health authorities. Again, coordinate with your pool management company, find out what their advice and their suggestions are. Obviously, you should have your swimmers signed up. You should have your swimmers signed up, registered, paid their ASA fees, and so forth. You as coaches must have completed the coaches certification course online. Additionally, you have to have had a background check done on yourself for your team by the league provider, Sterling background check. Okay, if you've not done that, that needs to be done immediately. Safety issue and requirement of our insurance policy for the entire league. Okay, the links to those steps and processes are listed here. It's free. The league pays for it. It takes a little bit. All of this doesn't take more than an hour for you guys to complete. And hopefully you guys found that coaches training course something that was helpful and positive. I think, again, it's a good way to kind of get a fresh approach to how to do things. Next slide, please. Current target for practices and meets. Again, we're pretty much on schedule. All the teams are back in the water, don't have any significant problems like we had last year. Again, the schedule is on the league website. Double check it. Communicate with the other teams. We get fired up next week on Tuesdays. We're real excited about that. Again, communicate with your teams. The ASA championship meet is the week of June 21st. And I'll be talking about that in just a little bit. Next slide, please. What do you do if you have a positive COVID test? So in general, first and foremost, if somebody pops up like sick on the deck, get them out of there, stop practice, get everybody out, keep clean for the pool, notify the health department and all the health officials need to be notified. Contact tracing. So again, you guys hopefully, as part of your protocols and plans for the year, have got a little bit more structure. Your practice is normal. You know where kids are swimming on a daily basis. You need to know what lanes these kids are in. Because if somebody does pop up with COVID, you need to be able to quickly go back and go, okay, who had any direct interaction with that person? That's hard to do if you don't know where these kids are swimming. If that happens, then you got to paint a pretty broad brush and go, okay, well, everybody go get a COVID test, find out if you're sick or not. Anyone receiving a positive test should contact your team coordinator. From there, contact tracing again. You don't have to necessarily identify the person, but say, hey, look, we know for a fact this person came into contact with this person, this coach, this parent, whatever else. You need to notify those people directly and tell them you should strongly consider going to get a COVID test and monitor yourselves. If you do have a positive test that pops up, that person needs to be out until they can essentially prove that they don't have COVID anymore. That's going to require a couple of days before they can even take another test that they don't have COVID anymore. Again, it's most likely that person could be out for probably about a week. Next slide, please. Any questions?
You're good.
Okay, again, establish policies to communicate with your team. prior to the start of the first practice. Again, let people know, hey, these are the protocols that we're going to follow. And we're already kind of at this point. Most of you've already obviously started practice. But ultimately, the big thing here is make it abundantly clear. If you don't follow the rules, here's what's going to happen. And I strongly advise if you get somebody that just essentially wants to blow all this stuff off and not do what everyone else is doing to keep each other safe, boot them out of practice. Okay. And if they continue to be an issue, just say, hey, look, here's a refund. We'll see you next year when this isn't an issue. Okay. Don't let people be selfish and blow it up for everybody else, please. Meets. So again, I stress this, and I have in every single meeting. Competition is a big part of what we do. Okay. There's a reason we have 5 swim meets, and it's a big production and everything else. But it's not the end all be all of why we're here. Okay. And I'm going to roll back just a sec, just kind of a little philosophical recap of why the league even exists in the first place. We as the swim league are here not to create the next Michael Phelps or Katie Ledecky. They might come out of the program. I mean, those folks actually, believe it or not, started as, 600s, just like everybody else. But the reason they got to the level that they did, other than, a lot of God-given talent, a lot of hard work, is somebody, when they were young, got them hooked on the sport of swimming. They made it fun when those kids were young. That's why this league is here. We're here to have fun. We're here to get these kids involved and engaged in the sport of swimming at the grassroots level, at the entry level of the sport. And we're here to keep them there once we get them in the door. Kids will try out all sorts of different things when they're younger. Football, lacrosse, soccer, basketball, you name it. And swimming is part of it. But the only reason they're going to stick with any of these sports is if they really enjoy it. And they're not going to enjoy it if they've got somebody that's just a complete lunatic at practice every day and is just hyper competitive and a bit of a screamer and not a very patient person. We want to create a positive, great environment for these kids to enjoy. And that's got to be at the core of what we do. And again, that goes back to what I've got on this slide right here. Competition, it's great to have these meets. I'm thrilled to have, because last year was, frankly, it sucked. It was just miserable not having, a complete swim season and having so many kids out of the water. But we're still at a point to where we're going to have to bend a little bit. We're going to have to do some things that require some compromise with each other. We have to move the dates of meets. We have to change the location of meets. We have to even change the format and pivot into a virtual meet, as things may not quite work out. But at the end of the day, keep in mind that the inconvenience for you or the inconvenience for a small group of your team that might think it's the end of the world is not an inconvenience for the roughly 90 to 95% of your team that's just happy to come to the pool one day, put a suit on, put some goggles on, and go swim and try and swim fast. That part, we got to keep that as the primary focus. Okay. So again, walk into this knowing that all your meets, they're not going to go exactly the way you hope they will. You may have to do some stuff that you're just not accustomed to. And God forbid if things fall apart and you have to have a virtual meet, take it for what it is, guys. It's still a chance to get in there and compete. Okay. It may not be in the format you want, but again, it's an opportunity. Traditional in-person meets, the majority of teams are going to do some sort of in-person competition. About 70% of the league, at least 3 or more of their meets can be in this format. Okay. A lot of teams are going to start out using kind of a hybrid approach. So they may split things into 2 sessions, maybe do the 10 and unders first, take a little small break, get out of the pool, get another group in with the 11 overs and come back a little bit later. Might take a little bit longer, but it'll get done. Okay. Be flexible with one another, but understand very clearly for any kind of in-person competition, home team is firmly in charge of what the COVID protocols are going to be. And if the 2 teams can't come to some sort of agreement as to how that's going to work, that meet automatically pivots into a virtual meet. No further discussion on that. But work with each other. Don't get to a point where you force yourself to have to do that. Okay. It shouldn't, unless there's insurmountable reasons to not be able to do it, like half the team is, has COVID or something like that, which I hope won't happen, and I don't expect that to happen. Say the coaching staff, say one of the head or assistant coaches is sick, and they've infected several other coaches. Might be tough to have an in-person meet that week. Work with each other, be flexible. Virtual meets. A chunk of teams are going to do those as well. Some teams, that's going to be their full schedule. And again, we'll talk about these throughout the meeting. But bottom line, it lets you limit the number of people that are present. Obviously, don't have another team there. Again, staffing becomes a little bit easier. You don't need quite as many volunteers. And the flexibility to conduct that meet in any way, shape, or form you want. You don't have to lock it in and go, we have to get all this stuff done on one day in one window, at the exact same time that the other team does. That's not the case with a virtual meet. You could spend the entire week swimming all the events that you need to cover to get the meet in and carve out an hour out of each day's practice and go, okay, Monday, we're going to do the 600s, Tuesday, the 7 and 8s, Wednesday, whatever. Okay. You can do that in any way, shape, or form that you want. All that really has to be done is you need to get your stuff done at the time that you've agreed to exchange results with the other team. It streamlines the lineup process too, because you don't have to do the lineup exchange for a virtual meet. You're just exchanging results at the end of the week. It still allows you to maintain competition. You can still do things for your virtual portion of the meet. Do your theme days, let kids dress up costumes, whatever else you're going to do. Have some fun with it. It kind of opens the door to a lot of different approaches to this stuff. Okay. Also, it allows you, believe it or not, you're not tied by geography. You may get swim some teams you don't normally swim because you don't have to travel to go swim them. Next slide, please.
Before we move on, just we forgot to remind you guys at the beginning, please go into the chat feature and type in your name and the club you represent so we can grab that for attendance purposes.
Right. Like Evan said, again, need your name, your team's name in the chat. So that's kind of how we're taking attendance. So for traditional in-person meets, home team's going to determine the COVID protocols, limitations have to be followed. And this can include limits on spectators. Or, the parents have to stand out in the parking lot, look through a fence. But again, whatever the home team says, you got to be gracious guests, follow what they've asked to do. And just, again, work with each other, be patient. Hybrid meets, again, may take longer. They might require a little bit earlier start. If you change the start time of your meet, you need to notify me and you need to notify your referee so they know to show up on time. Otherwise, they're going to assume that meet's going to start at 5:30 or 6 whenever your meets only start. Okay. It may require limits on spectators, like I said. Again, every pool is going to be different with this. Some pools may still require you to wear a mask. If that's the case, don't complain about it. And don't sit there and make a political statement about it either. That, again, you guys probably won't do it, but there's still some just completely over the edge parents on this stuff. Like, I'm never wearing a mask. I'm like, well, great, have fun. Go sign up for soccer, because if we're requiring it, we're requiring it. Early communication with each other. Okay. Sort that out several days, if not weeks, before the meet, so you can let your parents know so there are no surprises. There isn't that situation where parents, I didn't know I had to bring masks for all my kids. And you may want to have those on hand just in case, have spares. Okay. Again, if you can't agree on the protocols for the in-person stuff, then the meet pivots to a virtual meet. Work together. Be adults. Summer swim league. It's supposed to be fun. Not, death, folks. Next slide, please. Running a virtual meet, again, you can use practices to conduct this. You could use your regular meet date to do it. You could pick a different day. You could say Saturday mornings when we're going to do it. Really, all you got to do is communicate with the other team. Hey, guys, we need to swap results by, Friday at 5. Okay, at that point, then the meet can be merged together with the results. There are a couple of situations where you can have a yards pool to a meters pool. There's a way to deal with that. I actually sent an email to all the teams that fall in that category yesterday. So again, if you're in that category, I'll actually merge the meet for you, unless both things are using Sumtopia's Meet Maestro product. It actually will do it automatically. Okay. Also, in your communication with a virtual meet, You guys need to sort out what you're going to do if you have different abilities to dive into the pool on both ends. That requires some negotiation and conversation with each other. That's up to the teams to work out. Okay. But again, work those details out in advance. Don't just sort it out. Oh gosh. After the fact, it makes it a lot harder. Again, most virtual meets you can work with one timer per lane. If you've got space constraints, capacity restraints on the deck, you can self-officiate your virtual meets. Your choice is whether or not you want to do so. I've sent out multiple reminders to teams. If they're doing virtual meets, they do want an ASA ref, to email me and I'll get one scheduled for you. Say about 7 or 8 teams have done that. The vast majority of teams are actually going to self-officiate those. When you do so, again, you're on the honor system, guys. We did not have an issue with this last year. We had about 30 teams swim. I never had a team call me, oh, it's the other team. They didn't DQ anybody. I didn't have any problems with that. Okay. Big thing there, if you're going to self-officiate, get somebody qualified, understand swimming rules. Usually the coaches could do it. Or if you got a parent that's got officiating experience, they're perfect too. But again, the officials are there, to help these kids learn. And you don't learn from your successes in life, you learn from your mistakes. And every once in a while, these kids do something wrong in the water. They need to learn from those. They're not going to learn if it's not pointed out to them they did something illegal. Next slide, please. Again, the big thing with running a virtual meet, high-tech meet manager, I covered that in high-tech training, but a couple things to point out. Number one, you're going to use all the lanes in your pool. It doesn't matter if you've got 6 lanes and they've got 5 lanes. That gets squared up when you merge the stuff in high-tech or meet Maestro. That's not a challenge, but use all the lanes. You don't just use the odd lanes because you think you're the away team, quote unquote. Swimmers from all heats are eligible to score points in a virtual meet. That's a little bit different than an in-person meet. Okay, so that means anybody in any heat can score points, because we can't use place judges to determine the order of finish for an in-person for a hybrid meet. Place judges aren't going to be at the same place at the same time. The kids aren't going to be in the water at the same time. Okay, so what that means is also kids in the quote unquote what would normally be the exhibition heats, heat 2 and beyond, they have to be disqualified. Do something wrong. For an in-person meet, we don't disqualify kids in heat 2 and beyond. Okay, but for a virtual meet, we have to do that to keep things on the up and up and level. Okay. For virtual meets, you are not going to do the traditional lineup exchange before you swim. You're just going to put your lineup together and then dump it in the meet manager at your pool. You're going to do the same thing at their pool. And then you're going to go ahead and swim and put all the results in. The only thing you're going to exchange with the other team is a results file. When the meet's done, you're going to create result files to send to each other. And you guys can pull that stuff in, follow the steps from high-tech training, and merge the results and hopefully come up with the same score. Okay. You also have the flexibility, if your computer person can't be there for your virtual swim, you can actually put it in times after the meet. Okay. You're not even constrained by that. We suggest that you actually have the person there on site, because there's some other things they can keep track of. But if it's, that computer person's just not available and you want to swim in the morning and they're working the afternoon, or, they work in the morning and they can't be there till the afternoon, you can still make that work. Again, when you merge the results, the steps are pretty simple. I'll let you guys read through the high-tech training to sort that out. The big thing to coordinate with the other team is sort out when you want to exchange. What's the deadline? And if there's some reason you got to extend, communicate. Okay. That thing pop up on the screen about every 30 seconds. Communicate. Just let the other team know, hey guys, we had a brownout at the pool. We couldn't swim the day that we thought we were. We need an extra day or 2. Okay. Ribbons. So the way you're going to do ribbons for this is actually you're going to do them just off your virtual swim. When you swim at your pool, you're just going to go ahead and do ribbons that day. You're not going to do it off the merged results. Okay. Frankly, it just means your kids are going to probably get a little bit, probably nicer slate of ribbons. Next slide, please. Be creative. Have fun with these things. Just because it's a one team gig, The other team's not there, doesn't mean you can't dress it up. You know, have the DJ there, play music during the meet. Have fun with it. Make it enjoyable. Okay. You're also not going to have to run these things. You know, if you're going to do it on like that normal Tuesday night or Thursday night, you don't have to run at the warp speed you normally have to run with, because you only have one team there. So you're not going to have heat after heat after heat of exhibition swims. You don't have to, you know, blast through this thing. So enjoy it. Make it fun. Make it enjoyable. If you're doing something that's really good experience for you, let us know. Email us. Give me a heads up, or, you know, call me. I don't care. Send smoke signals, but share it with the other teams. We'll send out a weekly newsletter, and, you know, if there's something that's working, let us know. We want to share that with the league and make it, you know, make it work for everybody. Next slide, please. League championship meet. So you're going to see an email from me early this week. Here's the skinny on the championship meet. Number one, we're having one. We're excited. We're going to Georgia Tech again. Okay. It will be June 23rd through 26th. A lot of you are going, when are we swimming? We don't know yet. Why? Number one, we're going to be under pretty specific requirements from Tech as far as how many people we can let in the building. Okay. It's not going to be the normal, you know, unlimited, hey, we bring in, you know, hundreds of people, tons of spectators and all these people. We're going to be limited to literally a few hundred people that can be up in the stands, and no more than about 150 people that can be on the deck. Okay, with that in mind, we're going to have to really carefully coordinate which teams are in what session to make sure we stay balanced with those numbers. And we can't do that based on prior year's entries. We had to swim a championship meet in 2 years. Okay, we also can't do it on, and again, you'll see a survey from me asking me for you guys to give us estimates, but we can't put full faith and stock in that and find out, you know, we were way off on this and we have a session that's way underpopulated and it's a complete mess to try and swim. We have one that, God forbid, ended up having too many people in it. Team didn't, you know, communicate with their families and find out, oh my gosh, you know, all these people actually are planning on coming. We didn't think they'd come and didn't ask them. We just guessed. I need you guys to be very, very open and kind of direct with your families. Hey, are you planning on coming to this meet? If you are, here's what's involved. Here's how it's going to work. How certain are you that you're coming? And then from there, you need to give us your estimates. Okay? But really, we won't know until we actually have entries in hand. People, okay, these people have agreed to plop down, you know, 35, 40 bucks to swim the meet. And oh, by the way, the entry fees. We're still working on those, but it's looking like that's going to be the target area. It's probably going to be about $35 to $40 per swimmer. We have a lot of added expenses. The other big thing is we brought on a bunch of new awards here because of the new format. It is now a time final meet. There is no big championship at the end of the week. You're going to come in and swim one session with your team in that nice little 3 to 4 hour window, kind of like what your divisional sessions were. They're going to be like mini championships. So as part of doing that, we're going to have medals in each of those sessions. So we've ordered literally almost 7 times as many medals we've ordered in the past. Backed up. Okay, but we're still going to do the team trophies and all the good stuff. Okay. But again, the big thing here is, in general, if you're looking for an idea, when do you think we'll swim? Well, if you normally swim on a Tuesday night for your regular season meets, your championship session is either going to be Wednesday or Thursday, the 23rd or the 24th. If you swim on Thursdays, your session is going to be either Friday or Saturday, 25th or 26th. Okay. And again, there might be some mixing around on that, but not a lot. We're going to try and balance out the numbers as best we can. But we really won't know until we have entries in hand when they're due on June 13th. Also new. We normally have them due much later in the season. We need to get them in early so we can sort all this out. The good news is we'll be able to communicate things like warm-up schedules, worker schedules, all that stuff within a few days of that June 13th deadline. And we will afford some flexibility for teams to do late entries and things like that, because we're going to have that big lag in between the entry being due and the actual. Okay. Thing here is, like I said, time final format, one session only. Okay. We're doing medals and trophies and ribbons for each session. The entry fee is looking at, like I said, $35 to $40, probably the target. So again, communicate that as well. That's a big step up from the $25 we were paying in the past. Okay. I'll also send out just some general reminders about meet protocols and COVID protocols and things like that. Bottom line, tech just removed the mask requirement. That won't necessarily be something you'll have to do. Police, they still are encouraging social distancing. So there are going to be some requirements there. The team areas are going to be located. Everyone's going to be sitting upstairs, their team areas. Nobody's going to be on deck except for the bullpen, the swimmers, and the meat workers. And the kids that are warming up or warming down after the race. It'll be pretty much a tightly controlled deck. Okay. We will have some accommodation to get some extra parents in there, but it's not, don't expect something where like each kid can bring a parent. Me, the ratio is going to probably be about, for every one kid you enter, you're going to get something like 6, 7, maybe 8 parents. I'm sorry, for every 6, 7, or 8 kids you enter, you'll be able to get one parent in the building to help out as a timer, you know, a meat worker, whatever else, help out, manage your team area, shuttle kids back and forth from your team area down to the deck, and things like that. For those of you that participated in the state high school meet, another familiar thing that we're going to be doing this year will be different than what we've done for ASA in the past. The teams are going to come in the front door of the building in a controlled, scheduled time, you know, a scheduled time to come in the building. And that's going to be roughly 30 minutes before your warm-up session begins. You'll collect kids kind of on that front lawn outside of the front of the CRC with your coaches, maybe some parents helping out. And then when that window opens up, we'll let your team in the building. Okay. The other big thing is we're going to hand out the team packs. You're going to have to come pick those up from us. We're sorting out the details of where. It's looking like Sunday, June 20th. You're going to have to come by and collect your team pack. It's going to include credentials for everybody on the team. Anybody that's coming to the meet is going to have a credential. Okay, that's plumbers, coaches, parents, anybody that's coming to the building is going to have a credential. And they're going to have to display that coming into the building. It's not going to be one of those things where you come into the building, oh, where's our team pack and the heat sheets and everything? You have to get it in advance of that so you can come into the building prepared. There will also be a required orientation meeting, again, sorting out the details of when. It will be a Zoom meeting, but you must participate. Each team must have a representative there, or you will be fined $250. That's how seriously we're taking that thing, because we're going to cover a lot of really important stuff that will make your process, your experience much easier. Okay. But again, you're going to have some extra hoops to jump through with regards to making this work. And most importantly, to honor the requirements Georgia Tech has for us in their good graces. Again, they've already hosted some bigger meets, state high school meet. They just hosted the Atlanta Classic meet. They're getting things nailed down. But like I said, it's not going to be your normal ASA championship experience. State Parks and Rec meet, just real quick, that's still on for July 16th and 17th. I'll talk about qualifying for that in just a minute. Next slide, please. Adult League and Fall League, those are still on tap. If you're interested in the Adult Summer Swim League, it's called Grown Up Swimming. Brian Robbins runs it. His email and their website is listed right here on the slide. It's a lot of fun for the kids that have aged out. It lets them participate. And if you have questions, you can email Brian about it. Our Fall League, kind of our laid back little mini invitational league in the fall. We're going to move forward with that. Looks like the dates for that will start on August 21st. We'll meet the 21st to 28th, skip Labor Day, then do the 11th, the 18th or 15th, small typo there. I'll send out info on that, sometime in June. Please. Again, we're where we were last year. No joke. This time last year, we still didn't even know if we could swim last year. We were still sorting that out, believe it or not. So what a difference a year makes. I'm thrilled we're all back here. I'm thrilled that, these kids are back in the water and that we're going to, again, move forward with our sport. Okay, this is a great opportunity. I think the kids are just over the moon to be back with their teammates, with their coaches, with their friends. I hope you guys are excited, for this as well. Again, stay tuned. Check your emails regularly. I'm pretty good about sending out communications about what's going on with the league. In fact, you'll probably get tired of stuff from me as we get later into June. Again, if you have questions, again, I'm always here. Okay. That's kind of the front end of stuff and all the COVID protocols and things like that. Now we get to talk about the rules, exciting stuff. So, next slide. So, quick rules review. I've kind of highlighted the stuff we're going to cover. So, our league rule book, the link to that's listed right here. If you have not read the rule book yet, get on it. It's kind of important stuff to know and understand. Just a quick overview. The season dates are listed on page 4. League sportsmanship on page 5. I'll hit that right now. So, I talked earlier about kind of our mission statement, so to speak, league, why we're here. The sportsmanship page really puts that into good focus, with biggest point of emphasis for us is youth sports program, and all youth sports programs should have. The cornerstone of all this is good sportsmanship. Okay. And that applies to all of us, not just, coaches and coordinators. It's your kids. More importantly, it's their parents. Everyone is held to the same standard. And it all boils down to the golden rule. Treat each other as you would hope to be treated. And if you do that, you're going to get the same in return. Okay. It's real simple. Treat each other with some dignity, with some respect. If somebody makes a mistake, it was exactly that, mistake. It wasn't some awful, scheme to, hose you out of winning a summer league swim meet. All right. It was an honest mistake in most cases. If it happens, use this as an opportunity to help somebody, not hammer somebody. Okay. That page spells out very clearly expectations for everybody. A lot of teams have put that in their team handbook. They put it up in the pool. We're all accountable to that standard. And it essentially says we're going to do some real simple things. We're going to treat each other with dignity and respect. We're going to keep the safety and welfare of these kids as our biggest priority. We're going to do things that help them constructively move forward and learn good values of things like goal setting, teamwork, working hard toward a goal and achieving that goal, and the steps they need to take to accomplish those goals. Okay. And again, being good to each other, having some fun with this stuff. We're lucky. We've got a pretty fun civil sport. Everybody kind of gets along. It's a very, it's a supportive group. And we've created, I think, a very positive culture with the league. We want to continue doing that. So if you're one of these win at all costs, bend the rules till they almost break, I'll do anything to win a swim meet, go away. We're not welcome here. Find another sport. Go pick up a lacrosse stick. Somebody over the head with it. I don't care. But you're not going to find a lot of friends in this league. And if you encounter somebody like that, it's your job to get them to understand, hey, guy, girl, whoever, it's just not what we do. That's not who we are. We're out here to have some fun and make sure these kids enjoy themselves. But you sitting there getting red in the face because some 6-year-old got touched out and their backstroke raised, seek help now. Seriously. Okay. It's summer league. If you got to sit there and just get worked up, lose sleep over whether or not you won your meet against, XYZ neighborhood, whew, got a real rough life, folks. If you're one of these people that sits there and thinks, I think I could probably get away with doing this, tell this kid, go swim in this kid's place, tell the time of year somebody else, that kid gets to, we get an extra swim out of them and score 5 more points. You are going somewhere very warm when you die. And I'm not talking South Florida. You're a bad person if you got to summer league swimming. Okay. You got some serious character flaws. Work on that stuff. Pages 6 through 8 kind of cover the people and stuff you need to run a swim meet. Again, I'm going to run through this in a little bit greater detail in just a minute. The league rules themselves are contained in pages 9 through 17. What really governs what goes on at a swim meet is covered in, no joke, less than 10 pages. And it's not an itty bitty type. And but I hope is fairly easy to understand language. But we're even going to sit here and go through it. So hopefully you guys understand this stuff. things inside of that rule book to focus on. We talked about background checks already. The participation. Who can swim for my team? How many events can they swim? How many kids can I enter in a particular event? All that stuff is contained in pages 10 through 12, including who can swim up. Can we have a kid come from another neighborhood swim for our team? If we do so, how do we need to do it? All that stuff is covered on 10 through 12. Lineup exchange, and that process is covered on pages 12. Okay. The big thing I highlight there is whenever you get a weekly lineup from another team, that lineup exchange process, not to say that you don't trust them, check their entries, find out if that stuff's legal. The report you're going to get is pretty easy to look at and see, okay, they got a kid in 5 events, they got a kid in 2 events. That's not legal. Okay. We need to fix that. And that's a phone call or email to them. I think you made a mistake. You need to correct this. May I point out page 12 of the rule book? It says, here's how this stuff's supposed to work. Give them an opportunity to fix that. Don't find out the day of the meet when some obnoxious parent that's way too involved comes up with a heat sheet in their hand. Look, this kid's in 5 events. That team is cheating. Okay, that's an avoidable problem. Substitutions, what you can do to take kids out, put kids in, and things like that. That's covered on page 12. Place judges are covered on page 13. Next slide. How do you deal with electronic timing if you have it with plunger systems or the dolphin launches? Pages 13 and 14. Scoring, who can score, how many points they can score, how that stuff works. Page 14. What they can do with regards to attire and things like that's on page 14. The general rules for swimming and the USS swimming rules are pages 14 and 15, as well as 49 through 51. Block usage, you know, how deep the sport have to be and so forth. That's on 15. Bad weather, how do you deal with situations like that? Pages 15 and 16. Okay. Protest penalties, pages 16 and 17. The slide. Virtual meet differences, again, I'll talk about that in just a minute. So let's jump into the rule book real quick, please. Scroll down to page 4. So page 4 kind of lists off the dates for the season, including the championship meet. And the big thing to point out here, scroll down a little bit, please. A little farther. The state meet, so there's kind of an all-star meet at the end of the summer on the 15th and 16th of July. The way to qualify for state is based on where you live. So we've got Forsyth County, we've got City of Alpharetta, and we got Johns Creek. All 3 of those groups, they use the ASA meet as their qualifier. They use the times that meet to qualify kids for state. Places like the City of Roswell, some of the DeKalb County programs, they actually have a separate state qualifying meet. It'll be not at Georgia Tech. Okay. And it will be on a date that's not our championship meet. So again, we try and provide that info on the league website. The link on it's listed in the league webpage. I also had it on the slide presentation. Your responsibility to find out how your team qualifies for the state. Make sure you're educated on that, because there's nothing more frustrating for a family than having a kid that has a really good season and things are moving along real nicely, and the kid, you know, does real well at the championship meet, and they find out about this thing called the state meet. Parents like, well, how do we go to that? And they find out, oh, we had to go to a qualifying meet last week. Well, the ship sailed on that, and that's not going to be a happy situation. Slide, please. Sorry, next page. Sportsmanship, I already kind of hit this one. But all the responsibilities are listed here, and we're all accountable here. Okay, let's go to page 6. Page 6 lists off all the stuff and people you need to run a swim meet. This doesn't 100%, it's not going to be something you're going to be responsible for in most cases as coaches. Your coordinators will hopefully take care of this. But if you're ever confused about who needs to provide how many timers, all the other different jobs that go into a swim meet, they're listed here on pages 6. Kind of a nice condensed area. Scroll down a little bit on that page. Responsibilities of the home team. The big one here is when your meet is done, I need your team, if you're the home team, to email or phone me the score of the meet as soon as it's done. Okay, make sure you take care of that responsibility as quickly as possible. Don't sit there and wait for a couple days. Oh, we'll get to it tomorrow. We're going to dinner. Everyone's got an iPhone. Just again, quick email or phone call to me. Hey, the score of the meet was, and don't tell me that the Sharks beat the Dolphins. Okay, there are lots of sharks, lots of dolphins, killer whales, gators. Take your pick. I need to know Martin's Landing swam Saddle Creek tonight. Here's the score. Martin's Landing this, Saddle Creek that. Okay. Next page, please. Real quick, scroll down to the starter referee. So, starter referee, item 3. So, for all your meets, if they're in person, the league's going to schedule an official to run your meet. One person in charge of the meet. They start the races. They disqualify the kids if they do anything illegal and gain an advantage over another swimmer. They're going to try and move the meet along very quickly. They're going to do dive over starts. They're going to keep the meet moving along at a pretty crisp rate. You can help them by, number one, get your kids to the blocks. Get your kids tuned into the idea that when you go to the blocks, be ready. Be ready to step up. Be ready to go. Don't show up at the pool in like a full warm up, parka and cap, shoes, and whatever else on, and have to disrobe for 30 minutes to get on the blocks. Cap on, goggles on, ready to go. That referee says step up, they step up, they're ready to go. Don't keep the meet moving quickly. Always meet with the ref before the meet. Introduce yourself, cover any details you need to cover, specifically cover the DQs, and remind them, hey, if you have a DQ, I'm the head coach. Tell me, I'll be standing right over there on the pool deck. Okay? They're going to notify you, not the swimmer, if there's a DQ. Okay? They'll do the best job that they can. All right, guys? They're not always going to get it right. They may make a call you don't agree with. They may miss a call. If that happens, it's not some big controversy or conspiracy. None of these officials even know the score of these meets. They're not out there to get you. But what they are out there to do is keep the meet moving quickly, do the best job that they can to enforce the rules to the best standard they know, and try and give everybody kind of an even, fair shake. And don't fall into the pitfall of, oh my gosh, our swimmers got disqualified 10 times and their swimmers got disqualified twice. Well, more often than not, the team that got 10 kids DQ'd probably needs to work on their coaching and their instruction of their swimmers. That's usually the reason it's an unbalanced number. You're not sitting there going, I'm going to get all the people on the gators. Okay? This doesn't happen, guys. If you ever have a question about a call with an official, it is your right and your prerogative as a coach to ask a ref questions about a DQ. How you do it, though, is where we need to make sure we're all on the same page. If you ever have a question for a ref, you will approach that person calmly. You will not raise your voice. You will not wave your arms around. You won't get red in the face. You won't use foul language. You will, however, and you're entitled to do this, what lane was disqualified? Why was that lane disqualified? Are you certain that was the lane? You have it circled in your heat sheet with the reason. Those are reasonable questions to ask. Oh my God, what are you doing? Why did you do that, kid? That doesn't work. If you do that, I will find out about it. And then you and I are going to have a conversation. Okay, and it's not going to be a happy conversation. I am very defensive for my guys and girls and the refs. Try and take care of those folks because I expect you guys to conduct yourselves in a professional manner. And again, it's okay for you to advocate for your kids. And how you do it speaks volumes about who you are as a coach, the example you set for your kids. When you go over there and get, past go with the ref, it sends a message to your swimmers and to your parents that this is okay, acceptable behavior. You, the coaches, are the only people, other than maybe your head team rep, that should ever have any conversation with the officials during the meet. If you see some nosy parent or some snot-nosed 11-year-old kid that's got it all figured out, or that parent, I'm a FINA level, 15 whatever certified ref, and I worked the last Olympic trials, I don't care. Unless I sent them there as the referee for the meet, they have no standing. Okay. If you have a rough experience with the ref, you think the person's not up to the standards of what the league should be having, email me, give me a heads up after the meet. Let me know. That feedback is important for me to work with those people. Again, we got new refs coming on board every year. And sometimes we get some people that aren't as experienced as they need to be. If that happens, I need to know about it. I can't be all places at all times. We do try and do a pretty good job in training them and setting up some pretty clear expectations for them. So again, if you do have a situation that's not constructive, email me, let me know. And I'll maybe look at the schedule, make sure they probably don't come back to your pool, and certainly reach out to that person to try and work with them, improve their performance. Okay. Or if you have one that really does a great job, I want to know about them too. We want to kind of get them up the food chain, have them work the championship meet, things like that. Okay. If you know the ref, and that's going to happen every once in a while, you get somebody that you went to school with, swam with, take your pick. If that happens, you don't have to ignore each other. But don't sit there and pal around the entire swim meet. It sends the wrong message to the parents. And trust me, they watch stuff like that. If they see you chatting away with the ref, more often than not, they're going to go, oh my gosh, there's some sort of conspiracy going on here. Okay. The other big thing is place judges. Most of your meets will be decided as far as the order of finish goes by place judges. The in-person competition, place judges decide the order of finish, not the time. Okay. That's for in-person competition. So again, what the place judges see is what the order of finish is. If the place judges disagree, that tie is broken by the starter referee. They can ask them to break the tie. If they can't break it, well, that's fought the tie. You split the points and move on. They do not consult stopwatches, video, or anything else like that. Okay. Again, big things here with the ref. It's okay for you guys to ask questions about a disqualification, clarification. But also don't sit there and go poking around. Hey, don't you think you should have DQ'd lane 4? That's not helpful. That's you trying to do their job. They don't walk up and tell you how to coach. Remind your kids, you guys stay away from the ref. Because that inevitably, they'll sit there and go, oh my gosh, they'll sit there pointing, hop up and down. Lane 4, they only touch with one hand. Well, what they don't realize is that was heat 6, the 800 girl breaststroke. And again, like I said earlier, we don't disqualify kids in the exhibition meets in in-person competition. They don't understand that. Again, remind them, swimmer, you're there to swim. Parent, you're there to parent. And, you're for the kids. You're not there to officiate. Next page, please. So timers, all those other jobs, they're listed there, and that just kind of gives you a rundown of what their responsibilities are, kind of how they do their jobs. Going, let's go over to page number 9. So the rule book picks up on lane 9 or on page 9. Just general procedure. Most meets start at 5:30 or 6. Okay. It is the responsibility of the home team to reach out to the visiting team a couple days in advance of the meet, covering the specifics of the meet, COVID protocols, warm-up times, line of exchange, when you're going to do it, all that good stuff. They kind of take the lead on that stuff. Okay, sign waivers from registration, that's already kind of been covered and beat into the ground. Keep going. Coach's background checks, I've already talked about that. Keep going. Participation. So first and foremost, what determines how old a kid is? Well, that's determined by their age as of May 31st. Okay, that should be in your setup for Syntopia, Team Unified, Team Manager, whatever else. Make sure the swimmer's age is being calculated as of May 31st of this year. Okay, age groups, big difference here. We are allowing 19-year-olds to swim this year because they got hosed out of their senior year. We're going to allow them an extra year to swim. That is permitted. Make sure you are using this year's league template and setting up your meets, because it allows that to happen. You're using the old templates, building your meets off of last year's meets. It's going to cut off at age 18. Okay. We allow kids that are in college to swim in the league as long as they're young enough to do so. Team membership, that's pretty much determined by whatever your neighborhood, pool board, local municipality, whatever they say goes is applicable to your neighborhood, your team. Coaches swimming. So we do allow coaches to swim for the teams that they're employed by as long as they're young enough, even if they don't necessarily allow outside members. And the restrictions on that, we allow essentially teams to have at least one coach for every 50 swimmers they have on their team as a swimming coach. Coaches who actually live in that neighborhood or would have been members otherwise, they don't count against this limit on the number of coaches that can swim. Okay. Any questions? Non-standard swimmers, item G. So this is what we call a ringer rule. So we have a situation in the league where a lot of teams have what we call open membership policies. They allow anybody to join their team, regardless of where they live. And we have a lot of teams that have reduced membership fees for the older swimmers because it's hard to get them to swim. So when those things get merged, paired together, you have a situation where a team says, oh, well, we can let anybody on our team, an older kid, we can charge them $5 to join the team. Somebody could go out and very easily stack their team with very talented older swimmers. We put some speed bumps on that. Any swimmer age 14 or older, okay, if they are on your team and they are coming to your team from more than 5 miles away from where that pool is located, they're going to be considered what we call a non-standard swimmer. Okay, and they're going to have to be reported to the league. So you need to send us a list of who these people are that are on your team that fall into this category prior to the start of the season. The other situation where a person will be non-standard is if you have a person that's age 14 or older and they're coming to your team from another ASA club, no matter how close that club is. So they live in Tuxford, they're going to go swim for Dunmore. That would be a non-standard swimmer. Same thing. We need to know who that person is. And any of these people that fall into the non-standard swimmer category, the minimum fee they have to pay the team is $75. So again, if they're non-standard, okay, then all we need to know is you need to email us their name and you need to let us know if they're coming from another ASA team. Hey, they're coming to Tuxford from Dunmore. Okay, and they have to pay a minimum $75 to the team. It's that simple. No other requirements. Okay, and again, this only applies to swimmers ages 14 or older. Any questions? Again, if you have a kid that falls in the category and you're just not sure, just call me, email me, run it by me, and I'll give you a read on it. Okay, because really all I'm going to tell you is if they are non-standard, what's the kid's name? Send me an email. That's all I need. Make sure they paid $75. Dual meet entry limit. Each club can enter 3 swimmers for team points in each individual event where lanes are available. So if you're in a 5-lane pool, that's not possible to be 2 for one team, 2 for another team. Lane 5 would be an expedition lane. If you're in an 8-lane pool, it would still be 3 and 3 with the extra 2 lanes being expedition lanes, unless if the teams agree and they say, hey, you know what? We're okay with anybody in heat 1 scoring. Both teams will get 4 swimmers for points. 1. Okay. Dual meet entry limit. Each swimmer may enter 2 individual scoring events. That's heat 1 and 2 relays, 1 medley and 1 free. One thing they can't do is they can't swim 2 medley relays or 2 free relays. They can swim 2 heat 1 individual events, that's scoring events, and 2 relays. Okay, 1 medley, 1 free. The extra event rule: a swimmer may enter a 3rd scoring event. That's a heat 1 scoring event. Fill all legal lanes, provided all other swimmers from that team in that age group are entered in at least 2 heat 1 individual scoring events. Okay, so everybody, so say you're in the 13, 14 boys, you don't have a ton of kids. Once everybody's entered in 2 heat 1 events, then somebody could be in a 3rd heat 1 event. But let's go back to the 9 and 10 girls. We got a jillion of them. you cannot have any of those 9 and 10 girls swimming more than 2 Heat 1 scoring events because somebody was in 2 exhibition events. Okay. That doesn't meet the standard. They have to be in 2 Heat 1 scoring events before somebody could be in a third. Okay. Once everybody's in 3 Heat 1 scoring events, then somebody could be in a 4th Heat 1 scoring event, and so on up the line. So theoretically, if you had 2 13, 14 boys, they could legally swim all 6 individual events, as long as they're entered in an equal number going up the line. This is a big advantage for teams that are smaller or thin in a particular age group. It lets you compete on a level playing field. The kid's going to be a little bit tired at the end of the day, but it lets you cover scoring opportunities in lots of events. Okay. Make sure you understand that real clearly. Okay. The flip side of that is not everybody has to be in 1 Heat 1 scoring event before somebody could be in a 2nd Heat 1 scoring event. You could have situations in that heavy age group where your better kids could swim up to 2 Heat 1 scoring events, and you'll have some kids that are only swimming exhibition events. Okay. So you could take, in a 6-lane pool, you've essentially got 18 opportunities to score points in individual events. You could take your 9 best kids and populate them in those 18 available spots, and then put all your, not so qualified swimmers in just exhibition spots. A good formula for how to figure that out is it's listed here. So for example, what you're going to do is, so say you're in a 6-lane pool, that essentially gives each team 3 scoring opportunities in each event. Okay, and there's 6 individual events in regular ASA meets. That's 6 lanes, 3 scoring chances. That's 18 total. Divide that by the number of swimmers in that age group, and that gives you, say it's 5 kids. Well, 18 divided by 3, it's 3 with a remainder of 3. It means 3 kids in that age group, or I'm sorry, kids in that age group can swim, each swim up to 3 Heat 1 individual scoring events. With 3 of those swimmers, the remainder can swim legally. Okay. Make sure you understand that real carefully and clearly, guys. A, that's the place where most teams create, rules violations. And B, it's the place where a lot of teams miss opportunities to be competitive with other teams. Exhibition event entry limit. So again, coaches may enter swimmers in exhibition events with the following limitations. Kids cannot be entered in more than 1 exhibition event unless the only thing they're swimming in that race or in that meet are exhibition events. The maximum number of exhibition events any kid can be entered in is 2 exhibition events. We're not going to turn the meet into a big time trial. Exhibition event entry limit, you're limited to 1 exhibition heat of the following events: long free, IM, and the relays. And just because you can swim an exhibition heat doesn't mean you should. Try and avoid that if you can. Those events take a lot longer to swim, especially the relays. The one situation where I could think of a team needing to swim exhibition heats of relays is, say you've got 30 7-8 boys and you're in a 4-lane pool. You're not going to have a ton of relay opportunities there. That's a situation where you ought to swim an extra heat. Okay. But just swimming a extra heat of relays because you can doesn't mean that you should. Swimming up on page 12. The rules are different for individual events versus relay events. For individual events, swimmers can swim up, but they have to swim in 1 age group for all of their individual events. They can't swim in the 11 and 12 boys 50 free, the 13, 14 boys backstroke, the 11 and 12 boys IM. They can't bounce around. Okay. But just because they swim up in their individual events, they could still swim in their own age group for their relay events. What they do in a relay event doesn't impact what happens in an individual event. What they do in an individual event doesn't impact what they can do in a relay event. Okay. The big thing there is when that kid is swum up, so you take the 11 or 12 boy, put them in the 13, 14 events, they are now a 13, 14 boy for all intents and purposes. Comes this extra event rule, they're now a 13, 14-year-old. They're not an 11 and 12-year-old. So they don't count toward the totals, the 11, 12-year-olds. They do count in the 13, 14-year-old age category. Swimming up on a relay, you can swim kids up on a relay and leave them in their own age group for their individual events. Okay. The one thing you can't do though is you can't take a kid and swim them in the 11 or 12, say they're a 11-year-old boy. You can't swim the 11 or 12 medley relay and then turn right back around and put them in the 15 and over medley relay. One free relay, one medley relay only. That's it. Okay. Again, what happens in the individual events with regards to swim ups doesn't impact how they can do things in their relay events. Also can swim a kid up on one relay and swim them in their own age group in another relay. That's perfectly legal. Okay. Can't do it in both medley relays or both free relays. A weird question that comes up: can we ever swim a kid down in an age group? The answer is, believe it or not, yes. In most programs, you're going to have kids with developmental delays and other issues that, frankly, are disabilities that may not have them capable of swimming in their own age group. They may be comfortable swimming at 25 instead of a 50. If you have a situation like that, we allow you the discretion to do so, but just communicate with the other team and give them a heads up. That's what you're doing. Okay. Want to provide ample opportunities for those kids to participate. Team roster, that's pretty self-explanatory. Lineup exchange. So each week for your meets, for your in-person ones, you're going to exchange lineups with the other team. You're going to exchange 3 pieces of info. Number one, an entry file, formatted entry file, either out of Substitutions, Team Unify, or High Tech Team Manager. Be read by Meet Manager or Meet Maestro. Okay. You're going to export a full team roster. That's everybody on your swim team, whether they're in the swim meet or not. Those are 2 electronic files. The third file is actually a PDF of your meet entries in a spreadsheet format. It can easily be looked at age group by age group to make sure that these kids are swimming the legal number of events. You're going to exchange that with the other team by 3 o'clock the day before the meet. If you guys agree to do that a little bit later, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, as long as both teams are in agreement as to when that's going to happen. Do not, however, do it any later than about 6 o'clock the day before the meet. A lot of stuff's got to happen to merge all this stuff together. And more importantly, you're going to involve moving around some of the heats and lanes for your exhibition swimmers. And when that happens, both teams need to know when they go into practice next morning, here's what the lineup is going to be. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's what heat and lane everybody's in. I've sent out a PDF of this to all the parents so they know what their kids are swimming. They can write on the kids' arms with Sharpie, not me, not some parent. Okay. It saves a lot of steps, but it won't happen if that lineup exchange gets pushed off and pushed off. When you exchange lineups, you're going to do so electronically. When you do, don't sit there and say, oh, 4 o'clock good for me. Send your stuff in. What will happen is one of you will email your entries at 4 o'clock right on the nose. And you'll sit there and look at your inbox and go, I don't have anything from the other team. And you keep waiting and waiting and waiting. 30 minutes goes by and you're like, oh, I think I'm going to call this person. Text them, phone them, whatever. No reply. It's now 5 o'clock in an hour. And the awful thought creeps into your head. They've been looking at my lineup and changing what they've got. It might be happening. I told you to assume the best, but this is one of those things that you just can't. It creates suspicion right off the bat. If you're exchanging stuff via email, guys, just get on the phone with each other. Hey, just sent it. Did you get it? Yes, I got it. Did you see mine? Yes, I got it. Everything's there. We're good. Communicate. Again, there it is. Communicate. I said it again. We're going to turn that into a drinking game. Maybe. Okay. Big thing on lineups, go back. When you're doing your lineups, you've got to designate the heats and lanes for your swimmers. It doesn't matter what product you're using, Team Manager, Swimtopia, Team Unify. You have to input the heats and lanes for every entry. Okay? Make sure that's done. Substitutions. So once you've exchanged lineups with the other team, technically you cannot change the individual event entries. However, you do have situations where kids are unable to be at the meet. So you've done the lineup, you worked your tail off for 3 or 4 hours, putting this masterpiece together, and you show up at practice the next morning. And the moms and dads are up there talking, and they're like, oh my gosh, this person's got the flu, this person's sick, this person fell off the bike and broke their arm, this person stole a car last night, they got arrested, I don't think they're gonna make bail in time for the meet. Oh, I got Braves tickets, we're going to the Braves game, we're not going to the swim meet. A dozen kids are out. You can fill in for them with what we call legal substitutions. You can fill in another swimmer for the hole that was created by the swimmer that's not going to be there. And that can be pulling somebody up out of the expedition heat, putting them in the scoring heat. It can be putting a kid that's not already in the maximum number of events, putting them into another event. It can be the complete opposite of the situation where you have a kid that swore, I'm not going to be there this week. But there they are at practice that morning, and mom's over there like, why are they not in the lineup? It's like, well, the online forum said, yeah, you're not coming. Well, we're here. Can we get in the meet? Yes, they can. You can put them in as a legal substitution for somebody that's not able to be there. One thing you can't do, though, is you cannot take a swimmer out of an existing scoring event and then move them into another scoring event. You can't use that as an opportunity to completely rearrange your entire lineup. Okay. That's for individual events. For relay swims, you can change who's on the relay at any time. And that's your choice. That can include any time during the meet. These substitutions have to happen no later than 30 minutes before the meet starts, though. That's the deadline for doing it. However, just because the deadline is 30 minutes, it does not mean that you should start doing those, those changes in the computer right at 5 o'clock. Okay. Really, that substitution process ought to take place throughout the day. It ought to be one of those things that, again, that pre-meet conversation you have with the other team. Hey, why don't we talk at 12:30 after practice the day of the meet? I'll tell you my changes. You can tell me your changes, and you have an ongoing conversation so the home team can start putting that stuff into high tech and get everything updated and ready to go. We're going to talk again at 3 o'clock before we pack up and get in the car and go to the pool. These are the other 10 people that are out. These are the 10 people I'm putting in. The home team puts all that stuff in the computer. So by the time you get to the pool, pretty much most of the stuff's already in the computer. You can hit the ground running, print all the revised paperwork you need to print, and start that meet in a timely fashion. Next page, please. Questions? So lane assignments. Home teams in the even lanes, visiting team in the odd lanes. Exhibition heats. It's heat 2 and beyond. As I've mentioned several times, we don't disqualify exhibition swimmers. And we only disqualify kids in heat 1. Swap deadline, again, 3 o'clock the day before the meet. If you're going to be late and something's not working out together, with how you thought your day was going to work, communicate with the other team. Give them a heads up. Hey, look, I got stuck at work. I'm behind schedule on doing this. Give me an extra hour. Don't send your stuff yet. Okay. Talked about the starter referee. One quick thing to cover on this ref. Every once in a while, the ref might get stuck in traffic, have car trouble. God forbid, I've had them pop up. They get food poisoning at 4 o'clock the day before a meet, day of a meet. We just can't, dig somebody up quick enough. If that happens, get together with the other coach. You guys designate somebody to start the meet, be the referee, and move things along. Okay. Again, dual meets or judge final. We go by what the place judges say, not the time. The exception to that is, though, if you're using electronic equipment, a dolphin timing system or one of the plunger systems, if you've got 2 registers per lane, we'll take the average of those times, and that's the official order of finish. We don't consult with place judges. That equipment is in place and operating properly. Keep moving. Item 15, roped off area. Make sure you got 1 full side of your pool completely roped off. The good, at least 4 foot wide corridor for the ref to walk up and down the deck and do their job. Nothing is more frustrating for an official than having to trip over feet, people, take your pick, trying to do their job and walk up and down the deck and be able to see what's going on when, again, that's your responsibility to have it set up properly. Next page, scoring is pretty self-explanatory. 5, 3, and 1 for individual events, 7 and 3 for relays. No team can sweep all the points in an event. If that happens, so in an individual event, team goes 1, 2, 3. The other team gets the third place points as long as they finish the race legally. The ribbon goes to the kid who got third place. The points go to the other team. If they didn't finish the race legally or didn't have swimmers entered, then those points just disappear. Keep going. Championship meet scoring is listed there. Attire. We asked that they wear a swimsuit. Can't be naked. That's about all we asked for. We're not real picky about what these kids wear. I don't care if they have logos. I don't care if it's a school logo, club team, any of that stuff. They can wear jewelry. They can look like essentially a car that's going around a NASCAR race for all I'm concerned. Okay. The one big thing that can't do though is, so 12 and unders according to US Swimming can't wear tech suits. Okay. Probably not a great idea to go blowing, $400 on a, high-end tech suit for an 8-year-old. I think that's a bit extreme. All right. Basic rules for starts and turns. We follow US Swimming rules. They're listed on pages 49 through 51 of the rule book. I'm going to hit the highlights. What do kids get DQ'd for in the league? The refs are going to look for big picture stuff. They're not going to be out there with a microscope. So they're going to see stuff like a kid dives in on a breaststroke or butterfly race, water kicks, freestyle kicks for a couple of yards, one hand touches, breaststroke, and butterfly. Okay, the scissor kick and breaststroke, foot not being turned out and pulse apart of breaststroke. That's the stuff they get DQ'd for. Rolling over on their stomach and finish the backstroke race. Okay. Or on a backstroke turn, kid rolls over, takes 2 freestyle strokes. Yeah, they're going to get DQ'd for stuff like that. All starts on relays. Okay. That's the stuff they're going to get. And pulling past the hips after the pullout on breaststroke. Those are the big picture things the kids get an advantage on. One big exception to US Swimming rules that we have is we allow a false start before a kid is DQ'd. The way the false starts work are real simple. So race starts, lane 2 goes early. Referee is going to recall the heat and have them come back to the blocks. They'll step them back up and they'll restart the race. At the point when they're restarting the race, everybody has a false start at that point in the field. So on the restart, say lane 4 goes in early, lane 4 is disqualified. Okay. That's for dual meets. The championship meet, the same kid's got to go in. Item C, technically you're not supposed to be in the water with your swimmers. However, it's been a long time since we must have started swim season, and it was a really cold and wet May. You got a little bit of latitude here, guys, but try and avoid being the team that's pulling 6 heaps of kids down the pool. And more importantly, frankly, if you can, try and keep your hands off of the swimmers, even if you're in the water with them. You can be there as a safety net, but don't just go yanking a kid down the pool. Okay, that's just not fair. Okay. And the common sense exception to all of this is if a child is drowning, go get them. Okay, don't stick so rigidly to rule C to go to the bottom of the pool. All right. Starting blocks. You need 4 feet of water, period, to dive into any pool, whether it's a block or not. Okay. You guys double check the depths on your pools if you hadn't done it already. Right. If the water is not 4 feet deep, you cannot dive in. I don't care how good your shallow dive is. No exceptions. However, just because the water is deep enough doesn't mean that the swimmer has to dive in. If the swimmer is not comfortable or not capable, more importantly, start in the water if they want to. Okay. You guys should have done an assessment of all your swimmers so far, considering our first meet is next week, and double check their capability to safely dive into the pool. Any swimmer age 12 and under should have a start certification done on them. And you guys can do that pretty easily. Go to the deepest part of the pool, have them, dive in from the side to start. They put them up on a block and see how they do. And if that kid goes straight down, they need some work. Probably should keep them off the block until you can fix that. Ration start, procedure and training. There's a great link in there. You can see it highlighted in the hyperlink on US Swimming's website on how to assess all this stuff. Bad weather. How do we deal with that? Cancellation, postponement of meets. First and foremost, we'd like to see all these meets get swum to completion, but that's not always going to be possible. If you hit bad weather, first and foremost, your biggest concern is get everybody to safety. Every team should have an emergency action plan that maps out exactly what we're going to do if the weather goes sideways. We get everybody off the deck. Where do they go? Do they go to their car? Do they go to the clubhouse? Does our team go to the clubhouse? The other team goes to the cars. Are the cars safe on the street where the pool is? There are a bunch of old trees that are possibly going to come down if heavy wind rolls up. Hey, there's a Publix a mile down the road. Go there. We'll text you when we figure out what's going on. Okay. Common sense, or not just common sense, every safety regulation out there says if you see lightning or hear thunder, you wait 30 minutes before you get back in the pool. The clock restarts every time either you see it or hear it. Okay, don't play fast and loose with this. Don't fall into the two traps that teams fall into. We've got to win this swim meet. I'm telling you, I had a coach years ago call me up all hot and bothered because they're in a weather delay. And they are just going a mile a minute talking about how awful it is that we've stopped the swim meet and we're going to have a hard time rescheduling and blah, blah, blah. And they are not taking a breath. And next thing I hear is, no joke, I could hear probably the loudest clap of thunder I've heard in my life. It literally struck the pool deck. This person didn't take a breath. They kept just going right down the road. We've got to. And I'm like, is everybody alive? Don't be that person. That means you've completely lost focus about anything that is responsible or safe. You are an attorney's complete career in that situation. They're going to eat you alive because they're like, that lunatic sitting there freaking out over what the score of the swim meet is when we're trying to get people off the pool deck. The other one, my other favorite one, is the concessions coordinator. We've got all these hot dogs and pizza that we've got to sell. Well, you know what? Is $200 worth of Papa John's worth somebody's life in a swim meet? No. Be smart about that stuff. Think about everybody's safety first, then let's figure out what we're going to do with the swim meet, okay? Keep scrolling. If you hit bad weather, there's a playbook, okay? First and foremost, if the meet's delayed more than 30 minutes due to bad weather and you're halfway through the meet, one team's up by 40 points, you can call the meet at that point on the score, period. If the meet's delayed more than 30 minutes due to bad weather and you're not halfway through the meet, or you're halfway through or better, and one team's not up by 40 points, you've got a couple of options. Number one, you get together with the other team, their team rep, your coach, and you guys have a private conversation, a calm conversation, and go, okay, here are our options. Number one, you can continue the delay, okay, for either an agreed upon time. So if you both say, hey, we'll wait an hour, you can wait an hour if you're both on the same page. If you can't agree, one team's like, we want to wait an hour, and the other team's like, we want to get out of here, you can at least extend the delay another 15 minutes. Okay. You can agree to reschedule the meet. Hey, we'll come back on Saturday morning and get this thing done. Or we'll go back and complete our stuff virtually. You do your stuff virtually. We can do it that way. Or you can call the meet a tie, what we call a weather tie. Both teams get a win. Move on. It's, it's your easy button for all this stuff. I'd like to see the meets get swum to completion, realize that rescheduling meets is tough. Getting everybody on the same page is even tougher. All right. So again, work constructively with each other. But the only people that should be involved in that conversation are head team rep, head coach from each team. And if the team rep says, I'm in charge, coach doesn't have a say, that's their prerogative, that team, as far as their voice in that. The flip side is the head coach can, the rep says, I don't want to deal with this. Coaches enjoy their choice. That needs to be a calm, fair conversation. I'll try and take advantage of the situation. And also realize that there is never a situation where a visiting team can make a home team swim in their own facility if they don't think it's safe. And there's nothing that compels a visiting team to stick around if they don't think it's safe. If you're ever in a situation where you think it's just frankly not being handled responsibly, you're probably going to walk off the deck. Hopefully it'll never come to that, like I said. And if you run into an issue with this, call me. I'm there in the middle of the swim meet to take a call and try and talk off the ledge or maybe mediator. Hopefully referee can step in those situations. If the meet is rescheduled, you'll pick up where you left off. So say you stopped at event 35, you'll restart at event 35, and you will completely redo your lineups. So you can go back and take the kid that maxed out all their individual events, you can put them in brand new events. It's kind of a clean slate from a participation standpoint. Okay, I had a team get really worked up. They're like, the other team changed all their stuff. And I'm like, the rule book says you can do it. I told you can do it in the training class. It's an advantage to be had, frankly. But the reason it's there is it's hard getting all the same kids to come back. You have kids that come in. We want you to have the maximum flexibility to craft a lineup that works. If the meet's real close, you can go back and audit the results. I strongly advise teams to do this. If you get through event 60 and it's like a 10, 20-point meet, your computer people should get together and find somebody and say, hey, look, just go through the heat 1 races, make sure we input everything correctly in the results, make sure we got all the DQs. So by the time you get done with the meet, you know when you're going to announce that score that it's accurate. Because inevitably we get to a point where you get 5, 10-point meet. If you go back through it and it's 86 events, every once in a while something's going to get missed and it can split the meet. We'd prefer to have that score that's announced be correct and accurate. Okay. This will help steer that off. Keep going. Item 22, I wish this page didn't exist. In the rule book, protests, penalties, infractions for cheating. Okay. Item, I think, J on page 17 is real simple. Don't cheat. If you don't cheat, we don't have problems. Item I, I'm sorry. Okay. If you got to cheat at summer league swimming, God help you. You're a bad person. You're a terrible human being. Okay. Go back up. The big one to cover here is, keep going. One more. Item A, interference with the smooth operation of a meet in the judgment of the starter referee. If we have a situation where somebody comes up and they keep just harassing the referee about a call, about a situation, or anything else, the real big thing here is the referee has the ability to deduct points from the team. Okay? Hopefully in this situation, you're not the problem. But if you are, you need to take a deep breath and collect yourself because this does not get enforced very often. First offense is 10 points. Second offense is 25 points, and that person is ejected. I'm not kidding you when I tell the referees this. I tell the referees, if you ever have to throw somebody out of a swim meet, they don't leave, call the police. Because they're going to call me too. I'll call the police too. And what I'm going to tell them is, I'm going to meet where we have an adult that is out of control, unhinged, and threatening the safety of everybody here. They're going to come running. They're going to probably bring a news crew too. Don't be that person. You see that situation coming. You see that hothead parent over there getting ready to go light up the referee. You need to get that person off the deck. Get them away from the situation. Get them a cool drink. You take their cool drink away. I don't know. But really, really, really seriously, don't let it get to that point. Okay. That is something we just don't find acceptable. But frankly, it's ammo for the ref to get that situation under control if it really falls out of complete control. So item B, lineup and participation infractions not caught prior to the meet. So I talked earlier, real important, guys. You need to check the other team's lineup when you exchange lineups for an in-person meet. Okay. And if there's anything that's wrong, they've got kids in too many events, that's not a call to me. That's a call to the other coach. Hey, I think you got this kid in too many events. I think we need to go over page 11 of the rule book that talks about how many events kids can swim. Let me help you out with this. Let's fix this. If they refuse to fix it, that point you get a phone call to me. I will say, I understand how this works. But otherwise, this is something you guys can work out amongst yourselves. Notice rules infraction specifies not caught prior to the meet. So when you call me up and say, hey, we had a problem with this meet and the team had these kids in too many events, my first question is going to be, did you check their lineup when they did the exchange? Your answer is no, this penalty doesn't get enforced. Okay. Bottom line, first offense is you lose all the points of the event. Any subsequent offense, lose all the points of the event plus another 10 points. Okay. You check each other's stuff, it's not going to be a problem. The only time this really popped up is when teams make substitutions. Every once in a while, you kind of forget you had extra kids and extra events. You might have brought somebody in that got there late or whatever else. That part is where you might run into this and have a situation where if you got to protest something, it is not they're bad people, I protest. It doesn't work like that. You got to specify the specific rule that was enforced incorrectly or wasn't enforced that caused the outcome of the meet to be, influenced. Okay. Needs to be in writing, needs to be done 48 hours after the meet, within 48 hours. Okay. Other stuff, like I said, if we have a protest, I refer it to a panel of 3 people, reps or coaches that don't swim either other team. You can squeal to me all you want about it, but it's not going to affect I don't have a vote. I'm just going to refer it to this group. The only questions I'll answer are if they have a rules interpretation question, I'll clear it up. But I'm not going to weigh in on this. Move along.
Can you come back to one participation question?
Yeah, I was talking about virtually. That's all. Let's get forward. So the next couple of pages will map out just kind of the general timeline of stuff that goes on the week of the meet. Everything from pre-meet conversation to lineup exchange to the paperwork you print before the meet, substitutions, and then how to essentially, dispose of the meet, score the meet, and everything else. I'm not going to bore you with those details. We kind of covered that with your reps. Keep going. Now we're going to come to virtual meets. So there's a whole section in the rule book that mirrors pretty much the regular rules, but I've highlighted the stuff that's changed by virtual meets, including participation questions. So the people that are used, that's highlighted in yellow. It's just the trimmed down number of folks that get used. Keep scrolling. The big one here is starter referee. Again, virtual meet can be self-officiated by the teams. Okay, just because one team uses an ASA ref does not require the other team to do so. It's each team's choice as to how they want to manage that. Okay. Keep in mind, though, the referee needs to disqualify everybody from every heat if there are rules infractions, not just heat 1. Place judges really don't come into play in these meets except for a backup from timers, because in a virtual meet, the times determine the order of finish. Keep scrolling. The big thing here to cover, if you're at all responsible for some of the volunteer jobs that go on during the meet, for timers for a virtual meet, you need at least 1 timer per lane. Ideally, you should try to still have 2, 1 person with a stopwatch, 1 person with a clipboard. It lets them do their jobs a little bit more effectively and focus on doing their jobs well. You need to have a backup timer, though. If not 1, have 2 backup timers. Somebody's watch doesn't start, they start a watch at the start of the race. They can go over and say, hey, give me your watch. I'll swap it out. They can get a time. They're also going to stop their watch. They're instructed as part of their requirements here in the rule book, backup timer, to stop their watch for first and second place. So if, the kid that's first, the kid that's second, you don't get a time in that lane, you can go back and get it. If for some reason you don't get a time in a lane and the backup timers don't get a time, the place judge is there as a backup up, you can use that place judge to get a ribbon, but you need to mark that exhibition in the results. Okay. So because again, you don't have an accurate time to frankly determine where they place overall in the event. Keep scrolling. Computer operators, like I said, their job is, pretty much the same, but it could be done after the meet. If they're doing it after the meet, after you swim, they're just getting all the paperwork. Make sure there's a complete and accurate record of all the DQs and all the lane changes. Getting the wrong lane, wrong heat, whatever else. Make sure all that stuff gets communicated effectively. Rolling. So again, you're not going to do lineup exchange or a virtual meet. You're only going to do results exchange. Okay. You're going to do your events at your pool. They're going to do their events at their pool. Okay. You don't have to do them at the same time. You don't even have to do them on the same day. But you do have to set up a particular deadline as a group. Hey, when do we need to get stuff swapped over? Okay. And same thing. Communicate, be on the phone when you're sending those files. Scrolling. Like I said, 19-year-old swimmers are allowed this year. Keep going. Still meet entry limits. So, how are the participation rules different for virtual meets versus in-person meets? You're still limited to 2 individual events, 2 relay events for a virtual meet. Okay. Because there are no exhibition swims, here's how we're going to deal with the extra event rule. If a kid wants to swim a 3rd event, then everybody in that age group has to swim 3 individual events. They have to be eligible. You want everybody to be eligible to score points. If you want a kid to swim a fourth event, then everybody's got to swim 4. But I will warn you on this. If you want to try that and have all your kids swim every event, every meet, that meet will take forever. And your kids are not going to last very much. In the younger age groups, not every kid can legally swim every event. A lot of kids get DQ'd if you do that. However, if you've got a situation where you want to get a few extra swims for a kid, say it's the really good kid and they want to try and break all the records on the team, you can swim in extra events, just mark them as exhibition. Okay, but as far as scoring goes, if you want everybody to be eligible to score to swim a 3rd event, score points, everybody in that age group has to be entered in 2 events before somebody can be in a 3rd. Okay. Everybody's got to be in 3 before somebody can be in a 4. Everybody's got to be in 5 before somebody can be in a 6. Again, you've got the flexibility in the thinner age groups to cover all of your scoring opportunities. Okay. Any questions on that? Hopefully that cleared that question up.
Frankie, can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
This is Kelly from Smoke Eye Sharks. I have a specific situation where I have 2 15-18 swimmers, and one of them has a developmental disability and could not swim 3 events.
Yeah.
But the other one could swim all the events.
Yeah.
If I'm in a situation like that, am I allowed to have my really one valid swimmer swim all the events?
Yeah, certainly, Kelly. I mean, that makes that again, though, that's one of those. Have a conversation with their coach, just kind of put them in on that, because without being there at the meet to see that in person, that might get misconstrued. So up front, before you even swap anything, hey, by the way, we had this situation. This is why this kid's going to be in X number of events, and this kid's going to be in.
Okay, because I'm going to have the same situation with my 15-18 girls. I have one swimmer who's injured and can't swim butterfly.
Right.
I only have 3 swimmers.
And Kelly, technically, here's the deal. That rule for the extra events is based on entries, not swims. So theoretically, you could enter them in every event. You don't technically have to swim, but like I said, that's getting real close to the line of what the spirit of Summer League is, and the spirit of Summer League isn't. That's your question. Rolling. Uh-oh. What happened to my screen? Lost my screen, but that, on virtual meets, those are pretty much the primary differences between the 2. So again, heat 1 is, like I said, It's not just eat one scoring in a virtual meet. Number two, times decide the order of finish, not the place judges. Number three, participation rules are still pretty much the same, but if you do want to have kids swim extra events, it's going to fall into one of two categories. Either it's going to be you want them to score, and if that's the case, then everybody's got to be in two before somebody can be in a third. Everybody's got to be in three before somebody can be in a fourth, and so on. Okay. And then the other big thing there is if you have a kid where you don't want to necessarily put everybody in every event, but you do have a kid that wants to swim a couple of extra events, maybe get times and try and go for like a team record or something like that, you got the ability to put them in, just mark them as exhibition, and then that way they can get the time, but don't necessarily have to score. That's the bulk of the rule stuff. The other big thing to cover is if you look toward the back of your rule book, there is a section on the league championship meet, and that is kind of a evolving situation with the things at Georgia Tech, and that's still going to be updated as we go. But a couple of highlights to hit on the championship meet. Number one, the entries are due the 13th of June, which is a lot earlier than we normally do it. Okay. And those are due by 6 o'clock to me. You're going to submit the same three entry files, same three files you would submit for any meet: roster file, full entry file, readable by high tech. And then last but not least, a PDF version of your entry spreadsheet. So you know, if we need to go back and go, okay, what was the paper version of this? The other big thing is kids need to swim in at least one ASA meet during the year, virtual or live, doesn't make a difference. Okay, in order to be eligible for that championship meet, entered. We do allow swim ups, but don't really encourage it unless it is for specifically like filling out a relay or something like that. Okay, do me a favor, Evan, scroll down 39 here. The other stuff to cover on the championship meet is you're allowed to enter up to an A, B, and C relay, but that's it. Nothing beyond that, as far as relays go. So even that thick age group, you're only allowed essentially 3 relay entries per relay event. Okay. Entry fee, we're still working on it, but like I said, probably going to be between $35 and $40. And again, sorry for the increased fee, but the meet's frankly going to cost us a lot more money this year, and we're not going to have as many swimmers in it to pay the bills, so to speak. Keep scrolling down. Swimming up, talked about that. Orientation meeting, like I said, we set that. Make sure at least one person of your team's there. Okay. Not talked about spectator championship meet. Like I said, we have them great, but I don't see it changing that significantly to where we can make it work. Still get the meet done in a reasonable amount of time. Keep scrolling. Athlete supervision, like I said, you're going to get some extra credentials in your team packs. The rule of thumb ratio is going to be for every, like I said, 7 or 8 swimmers you enter, you're going to be able to get an adult in the building. Okay, a parent. You may not be able to get every family represented, but that's going to pick up probably at least somewhere between 50 and 75%. Most of the parents that would have wanted to go. We're going to live stream the event as well. It'll be done, real nicely, professionally. It'll be free. It'll be like the state high school meet. Team arrival, like I said, we're going to manage that a lot differently this year. We're going to pick up this team packs a couple of days in advance of the meet. I'm still sorting out what we're going to do with heat sheets. We may actually just send you a PDF version. And we'll see. I'm kind of weighing that out right now because, again, we're going to have the entries in hand pretty early. But I think also with an early entry deadline, I'm going to have a lot of teams coming to me after the fact going, hey, we want to get in. Can we get in? We'll try and make it work. Okay. Team areas, like I said, they're going to be upstairs. So you're going to have a designated seating location in the pool. I'm going to send that out in advance of the meet. So you're not going to have to come in there and scramble and go, oh my gosh, we got the last warm up. We get the worst seating location. Look, you're going to have an assigned location where you're going to sit. You don't have to sweat going in there and staking your claim, so to speak. Okay, there's plenty of room for everybody upstairs. I mean, we're only going to take up from that seating area upstairs seats 2,000 people. I don't think we'll have more than, we'll have maybe a quarter of that in the building. That includes people on the deck too. Okay. Bullpen, we will do bullpen again for all individual events for all age groups. We're probably going to let teams still take their relays to the blocks, but we are still going to manage some of that. Again, we're going to have some distancing and capacity restrictions on the deck to deal with. We'll come up with a full diagram of the deck. We'll go through all that stuff in the orientation meeting, which is why that's so important. Okay. It was really helpful in the state high school meet. We want to make it be the same process for this meet as well. Scoring divisions, again, we'll have a gold and silver. So even though you may be in a session with a huge team and you're a tiny team, we're going to split them up and give you guys a chance to walk out of there with some hardware. Again, the deck is going to be very limited as to who can be on the deck. We're going to encourage teams not to have their entire coaching staff on the deck. Really what we want is like for teams to probably try and keep their, most of our coaches upstairs to the team, only have a minimal number, 3, maybe 4 coaches on deck at a time. We're hard capped at like 150 people that can be on that deck. And that includes 20 timers. That includes about a dozen other, lifeguards and other people. That includes another dozen of our event staff. So right there, we've already gobbled up, we're almost half, a third of the spots. And then we got to stage out several heats of events and have swimmers in the water. So again, we can't have a ton of coaches on the deck. Awards, again, we'll do medals for top 3 for relays. We'll do medals for top 10 in the individual events. And then we'll do ribbons for all other places, down to 30th place. Okay, that's for every separate session, not the combined results of everything. Remember, it's a time final. There is no championship final at the end of the week. You're going to come down there and swim in one session. It'll take about 3 or 4 hours tops, and then you're done, out the door, finished. Okay, scrolling. Parking, all that other good stuff. We'll be sending on subsequent information on that. Can you go back to that PowerPoint, please? All the way down toward the end. Next slide, please. Next slide. Let's go back. Here we go. There we go. That was it. All right. Is that it?
Good.
Okay. I guess it's all of it. Like Evan said, be sure to put your name and your team in that chat if you haven't done so already. That is our attendance record. So we know if you were part of this or not, whether or not you get a fine, which hopefully you won't. But if you're here, hear my voice, you're out of the woods on that. I'll go back to what I start with. Have fun. It's summer league. We got to keep all this stuff in perspective. We got to understand that again, we're still not out of the woods with all the COVID stuff and everything else. We're going to have situations where we're going to have to deal with, things that we may not always agree with. But ultimately, we got to be patient with each other and understand that our patience pays off in massive dividends. These kids, I mean, they get the chance to compete, they get the chance to swim, they get the chance to be back together with their friends. It's been something that's been so woefully missing in these kids' lives. They've been staring at computer screens for north of a year now, school and everything else. We're gladly back into some semblance of normalcy in our lives, but we don't want that first experience to be some, contentious experience at a swim meet because somebody lost sight of the fact that it's just no fun. So.
All right, folks, here we'll keep the chat line open. If you have any additional questions, feel free to jump on, unmute yourself and ask any questions. Otherwise, we will cut out in the next 60 seconds.
Thank you.